So we've all heard the term the Orient, right? It's one of those words that brings up all these images of faraway places and ancient history. But let's be honest, if someone asked you to point to it on a map, could you? What does it actually mean? And where in the world is it? Well, let's dive in and figure it out. Really, it all boils down to this one huge question. Where does the West stop and the East start? Is there some, hard line in the sand? As you're about to see, the answer is way more fascinating than just a simple border on a map. Okay, so before we even think about pulling out a map, we've got to get to the bottom of the word itself. Let's do a little digging into its origins and see where this term Orient even comes from. At its heart, the word is actually super simple. It comes straight from the Latin word oriens, which just means the east. It's literally the direction of the rising sun. So if you were in Europe way back when, the Orient was simply the land where the day began. And get this whole direction thing, it pops up perfectly in other languages too. In German, for instance, you've got this fantastic contrast. The Orient is called Morgenland, the morning land, where the sun rises. And the West, that's Abendland, the evening land, where it sets. This little language lesson shows you how the concept was always defined from a European perspective. All right, so we've got the words sorted, but where on earth are we actually talking about? Let's jump over to the map and see how this idea of the East translates to a real place. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that this is not a single country, not even a small handful of them. We're talking about a massive, sprawling region that covers parts of 2 different continents. It stretches all the way from the Atlantic shores of North Africa way deep into South Asia. The sheer scale of this place is just immense. And its location? Absolutely crucial. Think of it like a giant bridge, a meeting point connecting not 2, but 3 continents, Europe, Asia, and Africa. And because of that, for literally thousands of years, it's been this bustling crossroads for everything. Commerce, culture, empires, you name it. Now, you can imagine a place this huge and this important doesn't just get one name. Over time, it's picked up a whole bunch of them. And what's so interesting is that each of these names gives you a totally different way of looking at this complex part of the world. It really is all about perspective. So you've definitely heard Near East and Middle East, right? Those are basically European geographical labels, and Middle East is the one that really stuck. Then you've got the Arab world, which isn't about lines on a map, but about a shared language and culture. And that's different from the Islamic world, which focuses on a shared religion. And it's so important to remember, not all Arabs are Muslim, and a huge number of Muslims aren't Arab. We can even zoom in further with terms like the Maghreb states for Northwest Africa. So here's the key thing to really grasp. All these different labels, Near East, Arab world, Middle East, they're all being used to talk about the same gigantic interconnected space. It's one region, but with all these different identities layered on top. And each one is totally valid just from a different point of view. With all this diversity in places and names, you might be thinking, what actually holds it all together? I mean, why do we even think of it as a single region at all? Well, let's look at the really powerful threads that tie it all together. It really boils down to 3 big unifying pillars. First, there's a shared environment. Think about the vast deserts and dry climates that have shaped life there for thousands of years. Second, a shared history. A lot of these nations were part of the same empires, from the Ottomans to the Umayyads, and they were all linked by ancient trade routes like the Silk Road. And third, a shared culture. There are these powerful threads of common language, religious traditions, art, and customs that just weave through the whole region. And now we get to what is probably the single most important idea for understanding the Orient. It's not so much about what's inside the borders, it's about the nature of the borders themselves. The source material for our explainer today uses this perfect German phrase to capture the whole idea, fließende Übergänge. Now, I know it sounds a little fancy, but believe me, these 2 words hold the key to the whole thing. Fließende Übergänge basically translates to flowing transitions. What it means is that the Orient doesn't just stop at some hard line on a map. Instead, its culture, its environment, its people, they all gradually blend into the neighboring regions of Europe, Africa, and Asia. The edges are soft and fluid, not sharp and rigid. So, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The Orient isn't some static, fixed block you can draw a box around on a map. It's a dynamic, interconnected space. It's defined way more by its connections and its gradual transitions than by any hard and fast lines. And that leaves us with a final, much bigger question to chew on, doesn't it? If the borders of a region as historic and important as the Orient are this fluid, then what truly defines any region? Is it the lines we draw on our maps, or is it the shared stories and the human connections that just flow right across them? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.